Caritamrta, and we've reached the 16th chapter of the Adi-lila today. So today is Monday, 22nd of September 2025. So we'll begin our reading. Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Caitanya Manovishtam Shtapitam Jina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajavi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Pabueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swadala Sarupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Vartino Kalo Samara Paitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Tikatam Vasadipita Sadakradare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Prabhajantamanapetya Mapeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Matayo Taravo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripamaitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Pajami Radam Aravinda Netram Smarami Radam Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radam Karuna Baradram Tato Mamanasti Katina Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarzara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya-lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarzara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And my Dandavat Pranams to our most honorable Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all our highly placed Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat Pranams to all of you. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavibhya Patitanam Papanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we've reached the 16th chapter. We've come through two chapters about the Lord's childhood pastimes and also the Lord's advent. So these chapters together, there's 5 of these chapters at the end of the Adi-lila, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, all describing the birth, the childhood pastimes, and then the youthful pastimes of the Lord. So these chapters come at the end of the Adi-lila. So it's nice to remember where they come so we can catch the structure. How is this Caitanya Caritamrta unfolding itself? It's not just sporadic or it's completely consistently flowing. So this is the place that we've reached, the pastimes of the Lord in his childhood and youth. So I'll start from the summary. This chapter fully describes Lord Chaitanya's Kaishora Lila, or the activities he performed just before attaining youth. During this time, he studied deeply and was victorious over greatly learned scholars. During his Kaishora Lila, the Lord also sported in the water. He went to East Bengal to secure financial assistance, cultivate knowledge, and introduce the Sankirtan movement. And there he met Tapana Mishra, whom he instructed about spiritual advancement and ordered to go to Varanasi. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring East Bengal, his wife, Lakshmi Devi, was bitten by a serpent, or by the serpent of separation, and thus she left this world. When the Lord returned home, he saw that his mother was overwhelmed with grief because of Lakshmi Devi's death. Therefore, at her request, he later married his second wife, Vishnu Priya Devi. This chapter also describes the Lord's argument with Keshav Kashmiri, the celebrated scholar and the Lord's criticism of his prayer glorifying Mother Ganges. In this prayer, the Lord found 5 kinds of literary ornaments and 5 kinds of literary faults, thus defeating the Pandit. Later, the Kashmiri Pandit, who was known to have been victorious all over the country, submitted himself to the goddess of learning, and by her order he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the morning of the next day and surrendered unto him. So these are the pastimes we're going to hear today. Text 60. Chapter 16, text 1. Kripa Sudha Saridyasya Vishvam Aplavayanti Ape Niche Gaiva Sadabhati Tam Chaitanya Prabhum Bhaje. Translation. I worship Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose nectarian mercy flows like a great river, inundating the entire universe. Just as the river flows downstream, Lord Chaitanya especially extends himself to the fallen. So this is the remarkable Audarya Shakti, the mood of Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Kara More Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagat Sansare. He prays for Lord Chaitanya's mercy because he is the mercy incarnation, having appeared especially to reclaim the fallen souls. Krishna here appears as Lila Purushottam, to taste his Leelas. Ram appears as Maryad Purushottam, to lay down the Dharma for the ages. So all of the different incarnations, they all have an absolute principle why they manifest. If we read in the Sri Govinda Gita Govinda, in the beginning of there, Jayadev Goswami, he describes all the different avatars and describes their purpose and their bhav also. What sort of stai bhav are they in each of these manifestations. So Mahaprabhu specifically is that mercy incarnation. And he's giving to the most fallen souls the highest conceivable gift. The more fallen one is, the greater one's claim to the favor of the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One must only be very sincere and serious. Despite being contaminated by all the bad qualities of this Kali Yuga, if one surrenders unto the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord will surely and certainly deliver him. The best example is Jagai and Madai. In this age of Kali, practically everyone is like Jagai and Madai. But the Sankirtan movement, inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is still flowing like a great river, inundating the entire world, and thus the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is successfully claiming all fallen souls to free them from contamination. So as I said many times before, we have to appreciate the non-sectarian mood of Mahaprabhu. When we say ISKCON here, we can inquire who is the Adi Guru of ISKCON. It's Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the Adi Guru of all the mats, also the Gaudiya mats. So we're all in the same movement, supporting Mahaprabhu's desire to help, to save the conditioned souls. And we shouldn't fall into sectarian mentality. I've said many times, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, sectarianism is the greatest enemy of truth. There's no need for it. We're all one mission under Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's banner, and we should have that clear understanding. And as I've just said, my Gurudev has quoted this when he's saying, who is the Adi Guru of ISKCON? Is Lord Brahma. Who is the Adi Guru of the Gaudiya Math? It's Lord Brahma. So how are we trying to differentiate here? There is no difference. If we're all reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're reading the Caitanya Caritamrta, why should there be
Of course, there's distinctions in what people's adhikar is, what they can actually achieve, because there's so many gradations, we can say, of mercy that's available for us, depending on how enthusiastic you want to absorb the scriptures and the teachings of Mahaprabhu. That will depend. Then you will be crafting your sadhya, your goal. When your goal is clear, then you can run very fast. If your goal is blurred and just influenced by so many different opinions and so on, then you can't move into 5th and 6th and 7th gear. You're still stuck. You have to have your sadhya. And our sadhya begins with Srila Rupa Goswami. The teachings that he has enunciated, because he's taking the pure teachings of Mahaprabhu directly. And all the Sad Goswamis are doing the same. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the 7th Goswami, the same. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, the same. They're all taking the exact teachings of Mahaprabhu. So we should not deviate one iota from their instructions, and then only success can manifest. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. One must only be very sincere and serious, despite being I read all that. Flowing. Yes, text 2.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. And all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. Text 3.
Jiyat Kaisho Chaitanya Murti Matya Grahas Ramat Lakshmaya Chito Tavagdivya Devya Disham Jaya Chalat.
Translation. Long live Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Kaishora age. Both the goddess of fortune and the goddess of learning worshipped him. The goddess of learning, Saraswati, worshipped him in his victory over the scholar who had conquered all the world. And the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, worshipped him at home. Since he is therefore the husband or lord of both goddesses, I offer my obeisances unto him. Most poetic verses offering to the goddesses. Text 4.
Eta Kaishora Lila Sutra Anubandha Shishya Gana Patita Karila Aramba.
At the age of 11, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to teach students. This marks the beginning of his Kaishor age.
Shata Shata Shishya Sange Sada Adyapana Vyakya Sune Sarva Loker Chamat Kita Mana.
Translation. As soon as the Lord became a teacher, many students came to him, every one of them astonished to hear his mode of explanation. Text 6.
Sarva Shastra Sarva Pandit Paya Parijaya Vinaya Pangite Kore Dukkha Nahi Haya.
The Lord defeated all kinds of scholars in discourses about all the scriptures, yet because of his gentle behavior, none of them were unhappy. Text 7.
Vivida Odatya Kare Shishya Gana Sange Janavite Jale Keli Kore Nana Range.
Translation. The Lord, as a teacher, performed various kinds of pranks in his sporting pastimes in the water of the Ganges. Text 8.
Katatina Koile Prabhu Pangete Gamana Yahan Yaha Tahan Loyaya Nama Sankirtana.
Translation. After some days, the Lord went to East Bengal, and wherever he went, he introduced the Sankirtan movement. So from his very birth, Mahaprabhu is only propagating this one movement of Sankirtan. Purport. Although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees in displic succession can defeat all kinds of learned scholars, scientists and philosophers in arguments, thus establishing the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, their main business as preachers is to introduce Sankirtan everywhere. Simply to defeat scholars and philosophers is not the occupation of a preacher. So we have the example of Jiva Goswami, who was reprimanded by Rupa Goswami for defeating the scholar. Even though Jiva Goswami was correct, but still we have that example. This is not our objective. Preachers must simultaneously introduce the Sankirtan movement, for that is the mission of Chaitanya, of the Chaitanya cult. Text 9.
Vidyara prabhave deki chamatkara chite shata shata prabhuya ashi lagila padite.
Translation. Struck with wonder by the influence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intellectual prowess, many hundreds of students came to the Lord and began studying under his direction. Text 10.
Se deshe vipranama mishra tapana nishchaya karite nare sadhya sadhana.
In East Bengal, there was a Brahmana named Tapana Mishra who could not ascertain the objective of life or how to attain it. Purport. One must first ascertain the object of life and then understand how to attain it. The Krishna consciousness movement is pointing out to everyone that the object of life is to understand Krishna, and to attain that goal of life, one must practice Krishna consciousness, following the methods prescribed by the Goswamis with reference to the authoritative Shastras and Vedas. Very clear. Text 11.
Bahu shastre bahu vakya chite brahmahoy sadhya sadhan shrestha nai hoya nischaya chaya.
Translation. If one becomes a bookworm, reading many books and scriptures and hearing many commentaries and the instructions of many men, this will produce doubt within his heart. One cannot in this way ascertain the real goal of life. This doesn't mean reading many books on Krishna consciousness. It doesn't mean reading the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole of the Caitanya Caritamrta, the Chaitanya Bhagavat, etc. These are all books on the same topic by the same line of acharyas. This is referencing many other books by other acharyas, not in this line necessarily. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.13.8, it is said, Grantan naiva dhyayasyad eset bahun na vyakyam upayunjita. One should not read many books, nor should one try to make a profession of reciting many books, especially if one is a devotee. One must give up the ambition to be a learned scholar, and in this way earn a worldly reputation and financial facilities. If one diverts his attention to studying many books, he cannot fix his mind in devotional service, nor can he understand many scriptures, for they are full of grave statements and meanings. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives his opinion that those who are attracted to studying many kinds of literature, if you're studying just the devotional literature given by the Goswamis, this is not many kinds of literature. This is all in the same vein. But if you're looking at different commentaries, etc., from other schools of thought, this is going to be bewildering and confusing. Who are attracted to studying many kinds of concerning various subject matters, especially fruitive activities and philosophical speculation, are deprived of unalloyed devotional service because of their splayed attention. I know different people, they want to discover sincerely what is the nature of love. So they read many different psychological books by Freud, by who else are they? Camus, so many different philosophers in the Western world, Hegel, etc., many different philosophers. And they think that they can actually get some sort of something special out of those books that isn't incorporated in here. What they will get is a distraction from the ultimate arrow of devotional service. Sadhu means to go very fast like an arrow. That's the meaning of sadhu. An arrow will move fast if it knows its direction, right? You have to have the direction, the target has to be there, the sadhya. There's the sadhu, the sadhya, the sadhya, the sadhan, and the sadhya. And it must all be under the guidance of the sad guru. Sad means perfect. So there's the perfect guru, the perfect practice, the perfect person practicing, and the perfect goal, the sadhya. All are perfect, four in a line. Sadhu, sadhan, sadak, and sadhya. Man has a general tendency towards fruitive activities, religious ritualistic ceremonies, and philosophical speculation. A living entity thus bewildered since time immemorial does not understand the real goal of life, and thus his activities in life are wasted. Innocent persons misled in this way are deprived of unalloyed Krishna bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Tapana Mishra is a vivid example of such a person. He was a learned scholar, but he could not ascertain what the goal of life is. He'd studied so many scriptures. His son is Raghunath Bhatta. When they have the name Bhatta after them, it means that I've said before, it means that they've studied one Veda conclusively. Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, they've studied one of the four Vedas absolutely. That's why they have the title. Bhatta is a title. So Raghunath Bhatta is his son. Tapana Mishra, yes. Therefore, he was given a chance to hear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Sanatana Goswami. Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Tapana Mishra is especially significant for persons who loiter here and there, collecting books and reading none of them, thus becoming bewildered regarding the aim of life. So important. Really, we have few granthas. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's 18,000 verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's what, 800 verses, 700 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Like, this is enough to keep you preoccupied for quite a while. And then we have the Caitanya Caritamrta also. 11,000 verses in the Caitanya Caritamrta, yes. And we have the books of Rupa Goswami. We have Vidagdha Madhav, Lalita Madhav, etc. We have all these wonderful books. Hansadutta, Uddhav Sandesh, Ujjwala Nilamani. And then we have the books of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jaivedama, etc. So many of his Gita Mala, what are the other ones called? Sharanagati. So many books that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and all of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books, for example, they're all taking the truths from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Purana. So this is the principal Purana that has to be absorbed fully. And then from there, like Jiva Goswami, for example, in his Tattva Sandarbha, he's writing about the Tattva Sandarbha initially is substantiating the Bhagavatam itself. Then the Bhagavad Sandarbha, all the Sandarbhas are there for us to absorb. This does not mean you're reading a lot of other books, literatures. Other literatures are meaning like, perhaps, as I've said, Western psychologists and people like this. And different commentaries by different lineages, different lines, which may be quite fascinating and may say something really to intrigue the mind. But we're not looking to be intrigued. Where the serious, sincere student is looking to have his heart inspired, to be captured. And the heart will be inspired and captured only by the Mahabhagavats, by the pure devotees, not by anybody else. By Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, like Brihat Bhagavatamrita, for example. This is written by a Mahabhagavat, so it can carry the heart to a very wonderful place of connection with the Lord, connection in devotional service. And that connection is described most lucidly, to begin with, in the Bhagavad Gita. What is devotional service? Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavan yaschasmi tatvataha. Nothing can be understood. Chesham satatam yuktanam bhadasam pitipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena manipiyamata. That this devotion unto me is revealed to one who is constantly serving me with love. So many verses there for the sincere sadhak, not to become splayed out. So Tapana Mishra had become splayed out. Text 12.
Swapana eka viprakahe sunhaha tapana namanani pandita pashe karhara kara gamana.
Translation. Tapana Mishra, being thus bewildered, was directed by a Brahmana in a dream to go to Nimai Pandit, Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Very wonderful example. Text 13.
Tenho tomara sadhya sadhana koribe nishchaya sakshat ishvara tenho nahika shamshaya.
Translation. Because he is the Lord, Ishvara, the Brahmana told him, undoubtedly he can give you proper direction. So in the dream, the Brahmana is telling Tapana Mishra, he is Ishvara. This is the Supreme Lord, Mahaprabhu. Text 14.
Swapna teki mishra ashi prabhure charana swapnerera vrittante sabe koila nivedana.
Translation. After seeing the dream, Tapana Mishra came to the shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and he described all the details of the dream to the Lord. This is actually when the Lord is in Bangladesh at the time. Text 15.
Prabhu tushta hana sadhya sadhana kohila nama sankirtan kara upadesh kohila.
The Lord, being satisfied, instructed him about the object of life and the process for attaining it. He instructed him that the basic principle of success is to chant the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Ultimately, this is the quintessence of life. Namna Chintamani Krishnas Caitanya Rasa Vigraha Punashuddho Nitya Nitya Vinatvan Naminaminaha. This is the ultimate objective, as we've heard from Mahaprabhu's advent, training the ladies to chant this Sankirtan rites, this Sankirtan, the holy name always. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement is based upon the instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one must chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly and according to the prescribed principles. We simply ask our Western students to chant at least 16 rounds a day, but sometimes we find that they fail to chant even these 16 rounds, and instead they bring many austere books and a worshipping method that diverts their attention in so many ways. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult is based upon the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya first advised Tapana Mishra to fix his mind on this chanting. We, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, must strictly follow this advice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is why we're reading this Caitanya Caritamrta. We're looking for the direct advice of Mahaprabhu. We're going straight to the root of our whole mission, our whole the whole movement. What is its based on? It's based on the words of Mahaprabhu. Text 16.
Tanra icha Prabhu sange navadvipavasi Prabhu agnatila tumi yai varanasi.
Translation. Tapana Mishra desired to live with the Lord in Navadvip, but the Lord asked him to go to Varanasi, Benares. Text 17. It's interesting that the Lord should have that Trikalagya vision, that he eventually would go to Varanasi. Otherwise, why would he be thinking? He's Nimai Pandit, Nimai the scholar in Navadvip. He has his wife, Lakshmi Devi, at the time, before she died. And then later on, he's going to have another wife. He's got so many students. He's satisfied in Navadvip with his eternal parikas. But still, Mahaprabhu knows that he's going to go to Varanasi at some point. And he stays in the house of Chandrasekhar, but he takes his meals with Tapana Mishra, who's a Paka Brahman, daily in Varanasi. And during that time, he instructs for 2 months Sanatana Goswami. And Tapana Mishra has the fortune to hear all that instruction. So these instructions are at the end of Madhya Lila. They start in chapter 22 of Adi-lila. I think it's there. Yes. The process of, 20. They start in chapter 20. Chapter 19 is the instructions to Rupa Goswami, and from chapter 20, for 5 chapters, it's described all the instructions to Sanatana Goswami. Text, where are we up to? 18. Text 18.
Prabhure Adharikya
17, that's what I thought, yeah.
Tahan Amra Sange Tomara Habe Darshana Adna Pane Mishra Koile Kishita Gamana.
Translation. The Lord assured Tapana Mishra that they would meet again in Varanasi. Receiving this order, Tapana Mishra went there. So it signifies his sincerity immediately. He had a desire to be with Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu said, no, you go to Varanasi. He didn't hesitate. He went straight to Varanasi. This was the order. He understood Mahaprabhu is Ishvara, is that supreme Krishna. And he got that order and went there directly. This is his great fortune. Text 18.
Prabhura Antarkya Lila Bujite Na Pari Swasanga Chandana Kane Pataya Kashipuri.
Translation. I cannot understand the inconceivable pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for although Tapana Mishra wanted to live with him in Navadvip, the Lord advised him to go to Varanasi. Purport. When Tapana Mishra met him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in household life, and there was no indication that in the future he would accept the sannyas order. But by asking Tapana Mishra to go to Varanasi, he indicated that in the future he would accept sannyas, and that when he would teach Sanatana Goswami, Tapana Mishra would take advantage of the opportunity to learn the object of life and the real process for attaining it. So it's not something that you know just in a moment. Yes, you get the direction, the fundamental process, for example, chanting Hare Krishna, but there's a methodology, there's steps to go through to understand what is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is what was explained at the end of the Adi-lila to Sanatana Goswami directly. And it's in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that it describes that while Mahaprabhu is in Bangladesh, this is when, in fact, Tapana Mishra approaches him in Bangladesh. Text 19.
E Mata Bagare Lokera Koilo Mahahita Namadiya Bhakta Koile Padhana Pandita.
Translation. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu contributed the greatest benefit to the people of East Bengal by initiating them into Harinam, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and making them learned scholars by educating them. Purport. Following the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement is distributing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and inducing people all over the world to chant. Interesting how Prabhupada, he talks regularly about the Krishna consciousness movement. He doesn't talk about himself. He's not saying, I am spread. He's saying, no, this movement is spreading it. The devotees are spreading it, not me. It's not by my effort, it's by their efforts. They are spreading it. We are giving people an immense treasury of transcendental literature. This is what he's giving, translated into all the important languages of the world. And by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this literature is selling profusely, and people are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with great delight. This is the preaching process of the Chaitanya cult. Since the Lord wanted this cult preached all over the world, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is acting in a humble way so that the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may be fulfilled all over the world, especially in the Western countries. This was Prabhupada's place of preaching, was in the Western countries, even though he did a lot of preaching here in India, but still the Western countries was his main focus, because that was the instruction of his Guru Maharaj. If you can speak English, go to the West. Text 20.
E Mata Bange Prabhu Kare Nana Lila Eto Navadvipa Lakshmi Virhare Duki Hila Haila.
Translation, because the Lord was engaged in various ways in preaching work in East Bengal, that's Bangladesh, his wife, Lakshmi Devi, was very unhappy at home in separation from her husband. Text 21.
Prabhure Vihara Sarpa Lakshmi Rai Damshila Vihar Sarpa Vishaitanra Paraloka Adi-lila.
Translation, the snake of separation bit Lakshmi Devi, and its poison caused her death. Thus she passed to the next world. She went back home, back to Godhead. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, Yam yam vapi smaram babam tyajati antikalevaram. One's practice in thinking throughout his entire life determines the quality of his thoughts at death, and thus at death he obtains a suitable body. According to this principle, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune from Vaikuntha, who was absorbed in thought of the Lord in separation from him, certainly went back home to Vaikuntha, Loka, after her death. So these early pastimes are influenced by Lakshmi Devi in regard to Mahaprabhu's relationship with his wife. So Lakshmi Devi was that Lakshmi of Vaikuntha. It's not Sri Radhika from Goloka Vrindavan. So Mahaprabhu has these two wives, and Vishnu Priya represents bhakti, pure bhakti, Bhudevi. So these two wives were supportive of the initial roots that Mahaprabhu was establishing. But when Mahaprabhu wanted to give Braja Prem, then he left both of those wives behind and just goes with a mood of separation from Sri Radha to Puridam. So there's a distinction in these Shaktis between Lakshmi Devi and Bhudevi Vishnu Priya and Sri Radhika ultimately.
So Lakshmi Devi is Bhudevi?
No, Vishnu Priya is Bhudevi.
Vishnu Priya.
Text 22.
Antare Janila Prabhu Yate Antaryami Desher Aile Prabhu Shachi Duka Jani.
Translation, Lord Chaitanya knew about the disappearance of Lakshmi Devi because he is the Supersoul himself. Thus he returned home to solace his mother, Sachi Devi, who was greatly unhappy about the death of her daughter-in-law. Text 23.
Gare Aile Prabhu Bahush Lana Dana Jana Tattva Gyane Kaila Sanchira Duka Vimochana.
Translation, when the Lord returned home, bringing with him great wealth and many followers, he spoke to Sachi Devi about transcendental knowledge to relieve her of the grief she was suffering. Purport. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaran yogaram jara tata dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Such verses from the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature gives valuable instructions on the occasion of someone's passing away. By discussing such instructions from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, a sober man can certainly understand that the soul never dies, but rather passes from one body to another. This is called a transmigration of the soul. A soul comes into this material world and creates bodily relationships with a father, a mother, sisters, brothers, a wife, and children. But all these relations pertain to the body, not the soul. We were just describing in the 19th chapter of Canto 9 exactly the same teaching. So many teachings in the Bhagavatam saying the same. Therefore, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, Dhiras Tatra Muyate, one who is sober is not disturbed by such phenomenal changes within this material world. Such instructions are called Tattva Katha, or real truth. These are so pleasing, like music to the ears. It's like the sound of Krishna's flute song. If you haven't heard the sound of Krishna's flute, you can hear the sound of the Vedic scriptures, because they're ultimately all emanating from his flute. So if you hear the scriptures, that's the precursor to hearing the flute. Hear the scriptures first, and then you'll be introduced to the flute when you absorb the scriptures properly. Text 24.
Shishyagana lana puna vidyara vilas vidya bale sabajina odyata prakash.
Translation. After coming back from East Bengal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began educating others. By the strength of his education, he conquered everyone, and thus he was greatly proud. But this is the Lord being proud. He has something to be proud of. You know, he has shown his excellence to such a high degree that he can defeat anyone, as going to be described now. So why shouldn't he hold that pride? Not in an arrogant way, although he's sometimes described as arrogant but still it's a good quality. Text 25.
Tabe Vishnu Priya Thakuranir Parinaya Tabe Takarile Prabhu Divijaya Jaya.
Then Lord Chaitanya married Vishnu Priya, the goddess of fortune, and thereafter he conquered a champion of learning named Keshav Kashmiri. There's a long, extensive explanation of the marriage of Vishnu Priya. If you're desirous of reading that, it's in the 15th chapter of the part 2, the Adi-kand of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And you can read all that very beautiful description of the marriage. Purport. As in the modern day, there are many champions in sports. So in bygone days, there were many learned scholars in India who were champions in learning. One such person was Keshav Kashmiri, who came from the state of Kashmir. He traveled all over India and at last came to Navadvip to challenge the learned scholars there. Unfortunately, he could not conquer the learned scholars of Navadvip, for he was defeated by the boy scholar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he surrendered unto him and later became a pure Vaishnava in the Sampradaya of Nimbaka. He wrote Kastuba Prabha, a commentary on the Vedanta commentary of the Nimbaka Sampradaya, which is known as Parijata Bhasya. So, for example, Parijata Bhasya is not necessary for us to read just because it's mentioned on the pages here of Caitanya Caritamrta. If you have the opulence of so much time and you've absorbed the other Shastras so significantly, then perhaps it may favor your bhakti. I don't know. The Bhakti Ratnakara mentions Keshav Kashmiri and lists his predecessors. Bhakti Ratnakara, for example, is written by Narahari Sakar, who was a contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Srikant, in Bengal, and he wrote many poems before Mahaprabhu's advent even. He's the brother of Mukunda Shekhar, who's the father of Raghunandan Pandit. And so he's in the family of Vaishnavas. So this Bhakti Ratnakara is all about Srinivasacharya, and it's about Janavamata. It's about all the Vaishnavas after Mahaprabhu has left this world. It's very, very wonderful compilation. You should all read this if you want to come close to Mahaprabhu's pastimes and his devotees. All the devotees are mentioned there in that Bhakti Ratnakara. It's very authoritative. Narottam, Srinivas, Shyamananda, they're all mentioned beautifully there. Predecessors in the distinct succession of the Nimbaka Sampradaya. So Srinivasacharya. The Bhakti Ratnakara mentions Keshav Kashmiri and lists his predecessors in the distinct succession of the Nimbaka Sampradaya. 1. Srinivasacharya. I don't understand that. Was it Nimbaka Sampradaya? 2. Vishwa Acharya. 3. Purushottam. 4. Vilas. 5. Swarup. 6. Madhav. 7. Balabhadra. 8. Padma. 9. Shyama. 10. Gopal. 11. Kripa. 12. Deva Acharya. 13. Sundra Bhatta. 14. Padmanabha. 15. Upendra. 16. Ramchandra. 17. Vamana. 18. Krishna. 19. Padmakara. 20. Shravana. 21. Bhuri. 22. Madhva. 23. Shyama. 24. Gopal. 25. Balabhadra. 26. Gopinath. 26. Keshav. 28 Gokul and 29 Keshav Kashmiri. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakara that Keshav Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. By her grace, he was an extremely influential scholar, and he was the greatest champion among all the scholars in the four corners of the country. Therefore, he got the title Dig Vijay, which means one who has conquered everyone in all directions. He belonged to a special, respectable Brahmin family of Kashmiri. Later, by the order of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up the profession of winning championships and became a great devotee. He joined the Nimbaka Sampradaya, one of the Vaishnava communities of the Vedic culture. Text 26.
Vrindavana dasi iha kariya chena vistare smurti nahi kare dosha gunera vichare.
Translation. Vrindavan Das Thakur has previously elaborately described this. That which is clear need not be scrutinized for good qualities and faults. So in other words, he's already written that, so there's no need to describe the whole pastime again. But Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is going to pick out a very scholarly part of that pastime, which Vrindavan Das Thakur didn't actually describe. So this is what we're going to hear. Text 27.
Se angsha Caitanya Caritamrta Namaskara Jasuni Digvijaya Kale Apana Dikara.
Translation. Offering my obeisances to Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, I shall try to describe that portion of the Lord's analysis which, when he heard it, made the Digvijay feel himself condemned. Text 28.
Jyotismati Ratri Prabhu Shishya Gana Sange Vishya Chena Gangirtira Vidyara Prasanga.
Once, on a full moon night, the Lord was sitting on the bank of the Ganges with his many disciples and discussing literary topics.
Eno Kaile Digvijay Tahina Aile Gangera Vadana Kari Prabhura Malila.
Translation. Coincidentally, Keshav Kashmiri Pandit came there while offering his prayers to Mother Ganges. He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 30.
Visaila Tare Prabhu Adara Kariya Digvijaya Tahe Mane Avagyana Kariya.
Translation. The Lord received him with adoration, but because Keshav Kashmiri was very proud, he talked to the Lord very inconsiderately. Text 31.
Vyakyarana Padaha Nimani Pandita Tomara Nama Balya Shastra Lokatama Tomara Kahe Guna Grama.
Translation. I understand that you are a teacher of grammar, he said, and that your name is Nimai Pandit. People speak very highly of your teaching of beginners' grammar. Purport. Formerly, Sanskrit schools first taught grammar very thoroughly, and this system continues even now. A student was supposed to study grammar carefully for 12 years in the beginning of his life, because if one is expert in the grammar of the Sanskrit language, all the Shastras are open to him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was famous for teaching grammar to students, and therefore Keshav Kashmiri first referred to his position as a teacher of grammar. Keshav Kashmiri was very proud of his literary career. He was far above the first lessons of grammar, and so he thought the position of Nimai Pandit not at all comparable to his own. Text 32.
Vyakyarana Madhyajani Padha Kalpapa Sunilam Pankite Tomara Shishera Samlapa.
Translation. I understand that you teach Kalapa Vyakyaran. I have heard that your students are very expert in the word jugglery of this grammar. Purport. There are many schools of grammar in the Sanskrit language, the most famous of which is the system of Panini, or the Kalapa or Komedi grammars. They are different branches of grammatical knowledge, and a student of grammar was supposed to study them all in 12 years. Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was famous as Nimai Pandit, taught grammar to his students, who became expert in dealing with the word jugglery of complicated grammar. Almost anyone expert in studying grammar interprets the Shastras in many ways by changing the root meaning of their words. A student of grammar can sometimes completely change the meaning of a sentence by juggling grammatical rules. Keshav Kashmiri indirectly taunted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by implying that although he was a great teacher of grammar, such grammatical jugglery of root meanings did not require great expertise. This was a challenge to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it was prearranged that Keshav Kashmiri would have to discuss the Shastras with Nimai Pandit. From the very beginning, he wanted to bluff the Lord. Thus the Lord replies as follows. Text 33.
Prabhu kahe vyakyarana pandit abhimana kari Shishyate na buje ami bujaite nari.
The Lord said, yes, I am known as a teacher of grammar, but factually I cannot impress my students with grammatical knowledge, nor can they understand me very well. Purport. Since Keshav Kashmiri was a little puffed up, the Lord increased his artificial pride by presenting himself as subordinate to him. Thus he flattered him as follows. Text 34.
Kahan tume sarva shastre kavitve pravina Kahan ami sabha shishu paduya navina.
Translation. My dear sir, whereas you are a very learned scholar in all sorts of scriptures and are very much experienced in composing poetry, I am only a boy, a new student, and nothing more. Text 35.
Tomara kavitva kichu sanite hoiman Kripa kari kara yadi gangara varan.
Therefore I desire to hear your skill in composing poetry. We could hear this if you would mercifully describe the glory of Mother Ganges. Text 36.
Suniya brahmana garve vinite lagila Gati eka sata shloka gangere varnila.
Translation. When the Brahmana Keshav Kashmiri heard this, he became still more puffed up, and within 1 hour he composed 100 verses describing Mother Ganges. Text 37.
Suniya karila prabhu bahuta shatkara Toma sama pritivite kavi nahi ara.
The Lord praised him, saying, Sir, there is no greater poet than you in the entire world. Text 38.
Tomara kavita shloka bujite kara shakti Tumi bale jana artha kimva saraswati.
Translation. Your poetry is so difficult that no one can understand it but you and Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Purport. Replying to Keshav Kashmiri sarcastically, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indirectly minimized the value of his poetry by saying, yes, your compositions are so nice that no one but you and your worshipable mother, the goddess of learning, can understand them. Keshav Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the master of the goddess of learning, has the right to speak sarcastically of her devotees. In other words, although Keshav Kashmiri was proud of being favored by the goddess of learning, he did not know that she is controlled by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 39.
Eka shloker atayadi kara nija mukhe Suni sabha loke tabe poive bada shuke.
But if you explain the meaning of one verse, we can all hear it from your own mouth, and thus be very happy. Text 40.
Tabe digvijay vyakyara soka puchila Shata shloke eka shloke prabhuna padila.
Translation. The Digvijay Keshav Kashmiri inquired which verse he wanted explained. The Lord then recited one of the 100 verses Keshav Kashmiri had composed. Text 41. Mahatvam gangya shatatam idam avati nitaram yad esha Shri Vishnos charana kamalapati shobhaga Dvitya Shri Lakshmi Eva Surya Nare Acharya Charan Bhavani Bhartuya Shirasi Vibartya Adbhuta Gana. Translation. The greatness of Mother Ganges always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is a second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped, both by demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. Text 42.
Shloker artakare Prabhu yadi baile, Vishmita hana digvijay Prabhure pichale.
When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to explain the meaning of this verse, the champion was very much astonished, inquired from him as follows.
Janjarvata praye ami shloka pandila, Tara madhya shloka tumi kachi kanta kaila.
Text 43. I recited all the verses like the blowing wind. How could you completely learn by heart even one among those verses? Text 44.
Prabhu kahe devar vari tumi kavi vara, Ache deva vari keho haya shruti dwara.
The Lord replied, by the grace of the Lord, someone may become a great poet, and similarly by his grace, someone else may become a great Shruti Dara, who can memorize anything immediately. In this connection, Shruti Dara is a very important word. Shruti means hearing, and Dara means one who can capture. Formerly, before the beginning of Kali Yuga, almost everyone, especially among the intelligent men and Brahmanas, was a Shruti Dara. As soon as a student heard any of the Vedic wisdom from his master, he would remember it forever. There was no need to refer to books, and therefore there were no written books in those days. The spiritual master delivered the Vedic hymns and their explanations to the student, who would then remember them forever without consulting books. It's described that the written language began about 3,000 years ago. Prior to that, everyone was like a Shruti Dara, like Prabhupada is explaining. They would just hear from Guru and then memorize it. We don't even memorize it if we read it 1,000 times in the books. To become a Shruti Dara, one who can remember simply by hearing, is a great achievement for a student. In the Bhagavad Gita 10:41, the Lord says, Yad yadi vutat vibhutimat sattvam Srimad urjitam eva va tattat eva vagachata tvam mama tejo mrisha sambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. As soon as we find something extraordinary, we should understand that such an extraordinary manifestation is the special grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to the champion, Keshav Kashmiri, that just as he was greatly proud of being a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, so someone else, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could become a Shruti Dara, and thus memorize anything immediately simply by hearing it. Text 45.
Shlokere arta kaile viprapaya shantosh, Prabhu kahe kahe shloker kiba gunadosh.
Translation. Satisfied by the statement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Brahman, Keshav Kashmiri, explained the quoted verse. Then the Lord said, now kindly explain the special qualities and faults in the verse. Purport. Not only did Mahaprabhu pick out this one among the 100 verses and remember it, although the Brahman had recited them like the blowing wind, but he also analyzed its qualities and faults. Not only did he hear the verse, but he immediately made a critical study of it. Text 46.
Viprakahe shloke nahi doshere abas, Upamala kara guna kichu anuprash.
Translation. The Brahmana replied, there is not a tinge of fault in that verse. Rather, it has the good qualities of similes and alliteration. Purport. In the last line of the verse quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the letter Ba is repeated many times, as in the words Bhavani, Bhartur, Vibhavati, and Adbhuta. Such reputation is called Anuprash, or alliteration. The words Lakshmi Irva, or Vishnu's Charana Kamalopati, are instances of Upma Alankar, and they exhibit metaphorical beauty. The Ganges is water, and Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune. Since water and a person are not actually similar, comparison is metaphorical. Understand? A little bit? Water and a person are not actually the same. It's like saying a flying horse. A horse doesn't fly. So it's a simile, it's a metaphor. So he's described it metaphorically. Text 47.
Prabhu kahena kahi yadi na kahare I rosha koha tomara I shloke kiba ache dosha.
The Lord said, "My dear sir, I may say something to you if you will, not become angry. Can you explain the faults of this verse?" Text 48.
Pratipara kavya tomara devata santosh balamate vicharile jani guna dosh.
Translation. There is no doubt that your poetry is full of ingenuity, and certainly it has satisfied the Supreme Lord. Yet if we scrutinizingly consider it, we can find both good qualities and faults. Text 49.
Tate bala kari shloke karaha vichara kavi kahe iye kahile sevrin veda sara.
Translation. The Lord concluded, "Now therefore, let us carefully scrutinize this verse." The poet replied, "Yes, the verse you have recited is perfectly correct." Text 50.
Vyakyaraniya tuminahi pada alankara tumi je jani beke kavitvera sara.
Translation. You are an ordinary student of grammar. What do you know about literary embellishments? You cannot review this poetry because you do not know anything about it. Purport. Keshav Kashmiri first wanted to bluff Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying that since he was not an advanced student of literary style, he could not review the verse full of metaphors and literary ornaments. This argument has some basis in fact. Unless one is a medical man, he cannot criticize a medical man. And unless one is a lawyer, he cannot criticize a lawyer. Therefore, Keshav Kashmiri first depreciated the Lord's position because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to the champion a student of grammar. How could he dare criticize a great poet like him? Lord Chaitanya therefore criticized the poet in a different way. He said that although he was certainly not advanced in a literary career, he had heard from others how to criticize such poetry, and as a Shrutidara, possessing a complete memory, he could understand the process for such a review. The sound is invading us. Very hard to focus. I might stop now. This is a very wonderful part here, and it goes into a very detailed analysis. Has he quietened down? Okay, we can try to go on. Text 51.
Prabhu kahena ataiva puchiya tomara vichariya guna dosha bujaya amara.
Translation. Taking a humble position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Because I am not on your level, I have asked you to teach me by explaining the faults and good qualities of your poetry." I'm going to stop now because we have to pay undivided attention to this next part if you're going to get any benefit from it. So I can't compete with that music. So tomorrow, fresh, we'll refresh this and we'll finish this glorious explanation of when Mahaprabhu purifies this Digvijay, Keshav Kashmiri, of his pride, and he gives us so much beautiful explanation about poetry, about faults and about the embellishments and so on of poetry. So he's giving us a high standard to appreciate what is real transcendental power. Because all of these granthas that we read, they're all written by kavis. There's the kavi Lord Brahma. Tene kavi ta hridaya. This Lord Brahma, he's speaking Janmadi Asya Yata Nivyat Itaratas Kartasheshu Abhignat Saran Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaya. He's the original Adi Kavaya. He's the original poet, is Lord Brahma. And Krishnadas Kaviraj himself, every single verse that he's writing, it's all poetry. When you hear the Bengalis speak this, it's very beautiful to hear. I can't speak it that way because I don't speak Bengali. But when someone is speaking this in pure Bengali, it's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful poetry. So all of these writers of our scriptures, they're all beautiful poets. So this Keshav Kashmiri is surrounded by poets, in fact. And Mahaprabhu, of course, but he's going to dismantle him. So let's discuss this tomorrow. We'll complete this section. I was hoping to do this whole section today, but
200 and something.
it's
verse.
late. Yes, the whole,
Possible.
there's almost 100 verses in this chapter. So we've got halfway through. There's 111 verses, so we got halfway through. We'll complete tomorrow. So Keshav Kashmiri ki jai, Sachinandan Gaurahari ki jai, Mother Saraswati Devi ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Someone's asking who is Vishnu Priya. She's Bhushakti. This is Vishnu Priya.
What is the meaning of surrender? I mean, surrender, according to me, it's